Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, I thank Messrs. Tricon for organizing this Indian Defence Conclave, stimulating as it has been thus far. My predecessor speaker mentioned, future is unfolding the present. I am going to be speaking on the future of land warfare, but in everyone's mind, the present is on lunch break. So Napoleon rightly said that the army marches on its stomach. Abhay Agarwal, in his introduction, he has been historical background and not futuristic, but I thank you for that. Now, in his 2015 book, The Future of Land Systems, where is your this? In his 2015 book, The Future of Land Warfare, Michael O'Hanlon writes that nearly 3/4 of the world's full-time army personnel, that is almost 15 out of 20 million, are the persons who are in the army. Now, that's a very large and big figure. So the future of land warfare is going to go nowhere. It is said that militaries prepare for the last war. However, more often than not, they end up preparing for the wrong war. In this regard, the Korean, Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan wars speak of the United States having taken forward itself to the wrong wars. And drawing lessons from that, they have now raised in 2018 the US Army Futures Command, focused on future readiness in an institutional manner. Now, we are in an era of fusion of old war skills, dual-use technologies, digital technologies, but today the world is overwhelmed by the two major ongoing wars. From the Russian-Ukraine war, the key takeaways are that the air defense is very important. Artillery has high ammunition expenditure, and so its expenditure rates have to be sustained in a very, very quick manner. You need supply chains, drones that can cause out of proportion damage, and any new weapon systems such as F-16 or Leopard tanks require more training. Now, I'm thankful for this. I could have actually summed up the talk of the future of land warfare, which our Chief of Army Staff General Manoj Pandey mentioned last month in a Chanakya Dialogues. And it is very important. Land warfare will continue to be such, especially when there are contested borders like in our context, and I believe victory markers will have to be defined in the land domain. My Air Force and naval friends would concur there. Now, from Israel-Hamas conflict, the key takeaways are that intelligence is very important. Electronic surveillance by itself is insufficient. It is the human intelligence, and I always maintain it is the man behind the machine. We have just seen the cyber presentation, but who is doing all that? Deep fake and all. It's the man, it's the human mind, it's the human brain. And that failed them. That failed the Israelis. Somewhere it was said, intelligence is the insider's threat. Exactly that's what Hamas did. They were working in the domestic homes, in the government level, in the Israeli houses. So that is where intelligence failed them in this high-tech world. Now, precision targeting is another place which is very difficult, particularly in the urban environment which they are facing. Underground tunnels provide unique defense potential, and warfare in that is one of the most difficult types of war. In any potential conflict, I would like to bring the China-Taiwan issue, because the deciding factor would be landing sufficient troops across the Taiwan Straits in the amphibious operations which they'll have to undertake. The fighting will then be ultimately in the built-up areas and in their semi-mountainous terrain which they have in abundance. So resistance of local population, one could expect, could be like the Ukrainian people who rose against Russia. And so preventing weapons and supply reinforcements is one of the main issues in the case of Taiwan against China. The drone-filled skies will complicate China's ability to invade Taiwan. This trend suits the defender. And the defenders in this case, I call not only Taiwan, it is Japan and the United States. Victory for them doesn't matter, but denying victory to China is their aim today. Now, these wars have thrown many lessons which would change doctrines. Primarily, I would say that land warfare will remain to the forefront. The three pillars of land warfare: doctrines, technology, and upgradation and advancements will continue driving the doctrinal concepts of war based on rapid, accurate decisions and destruction of the adversary's will to fight. So wars would no longer be short, as we have seen. Long wars will have a premium on larger manpower resources. Likewise, there is no doubt that technology has changed how the military would fight and plan its wars. Lighter, swifter, autonomous systems. Simultaneously, military leaders cannot lose sight of the human domain of war, regardless of technological advances. For India, land warfare is of enduring significance due to its geostrategic position as a continental power. Ground warfare, therefore, will continue to dominate its future war strategy. Our post-independence wars, the 1971 Blitzkrieg into Bangladesh, then East Pakistan, is a classic example in the world military history today. Our glacial warfare in Chechen is again a study in the military circles worldwide. And of course, the limited war of Kargil in the high altitude mountains is a great lesson of willpower and domination. What we had, General VP Malik, as the army chief, then said, we were deficient of equipment. He said, we will fight with what we have. Now, India's diverse theaters of terrain which exist pose unique challenges to us, starting from the deserts in the west to the plains, mountains in the north, and the jungle and mountains of the northeast. So each requires different types of warfare. And in each of this, though we are in an era of synergization, of optimizing operational functionality, in theaterization, we'll have to work, the army will have to work in close coordination with the air, sea, space, outer space, and cyber. Wars will take different forms. Conventional oblique regular, kinetic oblique non-kinetic, we can call it contact oblique non-contact. Then irregular warfare, where Pakistan has been a master of it starting from 1947 and continues to do so now. Asymmetric and hybrid warfare, we have seen the classic examples are 9/11 by the Al-Qaeda and the now Hamas on Israel 7/10. Then unconventional warfare, as we see it, includes gray zone, economic, water and legal wars. It goes beyond the military warfare. And then the technological information warfare, I think we have now seen the last presentation, though on cyber, has been all-encompassing of the threats which are occurring. So today, conventional warfare is being replaced by hybrid approaches that also combine cyber warfare and other frontiers. Military technology trends are changing the battlefield in 4 aspects, and that is connectivity, lethality, autonomy, and sustainability. So future warfare, therefore, will be increasingly blended with conventional and unconventional approaches. Now, because of this technology, the Western world at the dawn of 21st century had conceptualized that we may not see large armies. Instead, we will see fewer human beings on the battlefield who would be more technologically advanced, augmented human beings. And China, in that regard, took up to light, informationalized, technical armed forces. But I think this argument has turned on its head in the Russo-Ukraine war, where I will cover later, mass matters, concentration matters, quantity matters. Now, today, everything from autonomous vehicles to artificial intelligence to 5G networks to quantum computing to genetic engineering is identified as a potential silver bullet, disruptive innovations that will provide a war-winning capability. And the military, and by military I imply all the 3 services, we look towards that, how technology could help us and how we could get back with fresh doctrines. So technology, along with doctrines, presents a complex and evolving landscape. As you will see on the slide, some of it has already been covered by the previous speakers, but it's just giving you the overview, okay, what are we heading for in the innovation field, technology, and the military. And here, I would say the incarnation of artificial intelligence is motivating global powers to control and maneuver advancement in technologies. I call it the mother of all technological advancement is the artificial intelligence. The use of AI in military warfare is a rapidly evolving field. It is helping us in efficiency and effectiveness in the fields of training, surveillance, logistics, operational planning, cybersecurity, autonomous systems. However, these technological systems have also raised issues ethical. How the human being behind this system is going to utilize. Example being the previous presentation, deepfake and the wrong use of media. Now, along with I will combine is the Internet of Things, which describes the network of physical services that are embedded with sensors, software, and network connectivity that enables them to collect and share data. The primary goal of IoT is to create self-reporting devices that can communicate with each other and users in real time. Combined with AI, it enhances situational awareness and command and control systems, enabling more precise targeting. So as I'll go along, I will cover each of them very briefly. The most important now emerges as the C4ISR, that is command, control, communication, computer systems, along with intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. Now, they help us to achieve surprise and decision. But due to satellite imagery, synthetic aperture radars and sensors, it is extremely difficult in today's world to conceal, to generate surprise. It's become a major issue in battlefield and in warfare. Therefore, future will be shaped by militaries that enjoy maximum battle space awareness and surveillance over their opponent's forces. For example, the two Iraq wars, the Iraqis were totally neutralized to use their surveillance systems, and they only lay with their heads down. Now, having covered C4ISR, I must tell you that the field is further taking forward, and now the terminology has emerged, C7ISR, the 5th, 6th, 7th being cyber, combat systems, and the cognitive domain. Now, cognitive domain has become the biggest instrument to use. General Shivane covered it, the aspects. Cognitive domain is the one where the commander in network-centric warfare has got all the inputs, but ultimately the decision lies with him. And that is where his cognitive domain has to function to take the decision forward for the war, for the battle. And in this case, this network-centric warfare, it is going to have a psychological effect on the hierarchies of warfare, because that will shrink. The commander will have a sense of loneliness by taking these decisions. So that's a very important factor of the cognitive domain. Next on to robotic and autonomous systems. Now, robotic and autonomous systems represent the potential future of land warfare, where militaries can effectively strike their opponents through unmanned systems. We had a major presentation on drones, which is the major form of this autonomous systems. Drones, swarms of drones, loitering ammunition, which can rain down disaster of an unknown magnitude. And we have seen what's happening in the Russian-Ukraine war and now in the Israel-Hamas war. They are able to, drones are now today able to locate their opponents and to control strikes by artillery and rockets. For Ukraine, the United States supplied switchblade loitering ammunition. Essentially, the kamikaze drones have proved very effective. So has been the Turkish Bayraktar armed drones. The lesson is that drones are now key capabilities for land forces. This adds a degree of land-air integration to the lowest tactical levels, right down to company, platoon, and I dare say it will come down to section levels. The same, therefore, will apply in counter-drone warfare. So with this robotic and autonomous system, there is a debate in the Western world and in the advanced technologies that about the utility of deploying manned land forces in combat and to remove humans from the conflict zone by increased employment of unmanned systems, ground systems. A pipe dream as of now, but then H.G. Wells wrote that book, The Wars of the World, which was 100 years back perhaps, and now that is also threatening us. Cyber and electronic warfare, cyber covered very adequately, but the significance of theirs in land battles, including hacking, cyber attacks, are the major force multipliers. Future warfare is about casting illusions, false positives to enemy sensors. It is the ability to disrupt kill chain so that the enemy fires after you have moved out. This is the ability of the use of electronic warfare so that munitions do not land where they should be or where they were addressed. And this is where survivability comes to play. Human-machine learning has also been touched, but human-machine learning implies integration of human soldiers with the robotic systems and artificial intelligence. I can give examples. What are emerging are the transportation robots for supply chains, for operations, for casualty evacuation. We have the search and rescue robots. We have got bomb disposal robots, which are equipped with cameras, sensors, and manipulator arms that allow safe handling. Further advanced is the modular advanced armed robotic systems, the MARS, four-wheeled robo equipped with a variety of weapons, machine guns, grenade launchers, and anti-tank missiles. It is designed to provide fire support for troops in combat. So, taking alongside this, at the basic level, certain future predictive trajectories emerge, and that is the application of augmented reality with artificial intelligence in the future live training environment of the soldiers, which is so important. How do I mesh my soldiers into all this is a moot point, particularly in the army, where our men, their technological levels are lower as compared to the Air Force and Navy. Now, so in the near term, this is to increase situational awareness and lighten the soldier's physical load, which will improve combat effectiveness, particularly of the dismounted units, that's the infantry. In the midterm, the priority has to be to improve sustainment and soldiers' protection, like the unmanned combat vehicles. In the far term, the priority is to facilitate maneuver with unmanned combat vehicles, which will increase capabilities within brigade combat teams and levels. Now, some lessons which have further emerged from this Russo-Ukraine and Israel-Hamas war, because they are the ones which are now going to be a matter of great study and take warfare further. The combined arms warfare has come to great importance. The learning is this great importance. Russian armor failed in its capture of Kyiv right at the inception of the battle. They did not follow any armor tactics. It was not the failure of the tanks. It was not the failure of the armor. It was the failure of leadership. Now, so combined arms approach is very important. Albeit today, with drone and counter-drone capabilities increasingly integrated into land units, the use of infantry combat vehicles also is very important alongside the armored tanks. But as a corollary, what has emerged in this Russo-Ukraine war is that the trench warfare of the First World War, the positional warfare too, is back. The battles of Bakhmut and Soledar speak of it. Russians, during the last winter, dug in minefields, hundreds of kilometers of trenches. And so positional warfare we cannot do away with. For us in India, the mountains dictate that we have to protect, and we have to be there in those bunkers, the pillboxes, because in our case, we cannot wipe out mountains, but we have to wipe out the enemy. Now, tank versus anti-tank warfare has been another major lesson. Tanks, I would say the Russian use of it again was poor, but the javelins and the NLAWs, that is the light anti-tank weapon system of the British-Swedish combined, they were very effective. The top of the tank, they targeted, and it has been very effective. The lesson emerging is to provide deeper armor protection to them, to the tanks. But I tell you one thing, I'm hearing that the armored tank warfare will fade away. Nowhere. Those of in uniform, be forewarned. Tank warfare is there to stay. Our deserts speak of it. Maneuver warfare is there to stay, and we have to take forward. So that thinking has to be really wiped out of our thoughts. Galwan episode taught us the importance of light tanks. Our tanks, T-90s, were heavy. So Moving swiftly in our Atmanirbhar concept, the DRDO along with L&T is coming out with a light tank called the Zorawar 25-ton. Its prototype trial is expected by end of this month. So I think that's again a great development which has taken place. Now next is air defense and drone warfare. Ukraine fielded, no, I must tell you, that Russia was very strong, they could not use the Air Force. But why it was that they could not use the Air Force? Ukraine fielded a distributed air defense network with radar and missiles using shoot and scoot tactics, created a layered air defense in which man-portable missiles forced Russian aircraft to operate at higher levels, where they were vulnerable to long-range S-300 missiles, which is their manufacture itself. However, having said that, the Russian S-300 and 400 are more mobile than compared with the US Patriotic missile. It takes 15 to 20 minutes to move out, whereas the Patriotic missile takes about an hour. So all these things in warfare come to play, and it comes into play with the military leadership, the cognitive part. Next is the precision weapons. Being a gunner, I will say, artillery retains its position as the god of war. All our 5th-generation warfare, all our high-tech systems, when the artillery shells are falling and artillery barrages are coming, much of the cognitive and the other systems break down severely. So we need longer-range artillery with improved ammunition to enhance its effectiveness. We need precision systems and longer ranges rockets and missiles. But the precision weapons contain guidance systems, we must know that, sophisticated electronics and electro-optical sensors. They are expensive and take a long time to resupply. So its control of usage is very important. Expensive anti-tank missiles will need to be complemented by cheaper ones. Now, I mentioned about mass and numbers. I tell you, they count in today. The return of mass to the battlefield will set the United States and the Western countries to rethink their smaller, high-tech mobile forces organization and structure. The idea of theirs was to use quality to offset an adversary's quantity which Russia had in much higher measure. Therefore, numbers count. Warfare is moving the advantage back to mass. It remains an important factor. In the recent Hamas war, I will say the swarm of rocket attacks by Hamas was use of mass. And the Iron Dome air defense system, which had 90% hit capability, could not fully match because every equipment, every technology has a finite capability and not infinite. So we have to face mass and quantity and numbers count, and we have to counter that. You know, Israel's system to intercept these cheap rockets is much more expensive with your Iron Dome. Hamas has also used small, cheap drones to attack Israel's communication networks and offset their traditional military advantage. Now I'll touch upon terrain. You see, in the military, the first aspect in military planning is terrain and deductions from that. And I've covered the different terrains which we have. Each one matters. Wherever army is deployed in the different theaters, we are developing new doctrines, training for that. The recent Nagorno-Karabakh war also took place in mountains and allies. The Ukraine war has seen urban, riverine, and even snow warfare. Increasing urbanization and urban warfare has given great example. The Azov battalion in Mariupol and the Azovstal steelworks. Ultimately, Russia had to come to a compromise. They could not deal. And today, Israel is facing a very stiff challenge, notwithstanding the Western media, in its fight in the underground tunnel warfare, the importance of tunnel warfare. Now, big war, I say, is back. short special operations against an inferior enemy has turned into large-scale conflicts between states over wider geographical area. It speaks for it in the Russian-Ukraine war. High intensity, they are going to be proxy wars, the NATO support. They are sitting behind, providing all the support, and Ukraine is facing the brunt of it. So wars, long wars could be of the like of Korea 1950-53, they could be of the like of Bosnia 1992-1995, and the Iran-Iraq war, which people have forgotten, lasted 8 years from 1980 to 88. So all this tells us that there's a strong need of a standing, well-trained army. Reservists or conscription are a poor substitute. And here, when our organization structure is seeing certain changes, I think the midterm correction will have to be applied. To sustain a war, large reserves are necessary and losses must be constantly replenished. Therefore, the importance of supply chain, logistic stockpiles are vital. It is also important to protect the logistic lines of communication and dumps, which are prime targets in today's warfare. Each side wants to target the logistic dumps so that your fighting capability is diminished. Here, the masters of military leadership and war, the Indian Armed Forces, the prime military capability is motivation and morale, competence, and the future of land warfare will definitely be retained by the man behind the machine. At best, technology can move on parallel lines with the military. The fear of cyber and all those electronic things means a time will come in warfare, if it's a long warfare, that the manual system has to come to fore, and no better than the Indian military, which Field Marshal Slim wrote in his book, Defeat into Victory in Second World War. Innovation, what we call Jugaad, is the biggest strength of the Indian Army, particularly Indian Army soldiers. Battle of narratives, media plays a strong role. Somewhere it had come up, the SpaceX-owned satellite Starlink communication played havoc. They could provide Ukraine the exact location of the Russian generals, and they were done with. Now, having covered that, I will just like to show you the system which I have covered, okay, what is the percentage usage of which is being expected or is in use. You will find that artificial intelligence is highest 20%. We have robotics and autonomous systems at 14%. The cyber warfare 10%, and rest of it we see like the Internet of Things 10% and all these. So technology definitely, at one time military doctrines used to dictate technology. Today I think they are at parallel lines, but yet man behind the machine will be the one, whether it is cyber, electronic, your network-centric warfare, who's sitting behind, he has to take you forward. And here, I would like to tell you, we talk of Adam Nirbhar defense. Yes, today, I think it with great pride one can say that India has become emerging as a major arms exporter. And here, you see the timelines. I specifically taken on this slide. You see the timelines starting 1960, the post-Make in India initiatives, and the future scenario. The platforms are there for you to see. The artillery systems. Today we are coming out with the ATAGS, which is the world's foremost artillery gun, 155 millimeter, 52 calibers. The longest range is from India. We got the Akash missile systems. We have got the BrahMos land version, which is an export item today. We have got the different versions of the BrahMos. The Pinaka multi-rocket launcher system, one of the most effective systems which has come out. So I would like to, having said that, say that we are taking forward these improved versions. Lately, we have come up with an improved version of NAG ATGMs for the helicopters. We are working on the Alpha S, which is a hovering swarm weapon developed by HAL. So, ladies and gentlemen, I will say with great pride that the future of land warfare is safe in the hands of the Indian Armed Forces, and the predominant among them will be the Indian Army. Definitely a role which we can assure the countrymen that we are right up there. Thank you very much, Jai Hind, for this patient hearing.